Hi everyone, welcome to Quilted Cactus. Today I wanted to introduce you to my first pattern per se. I guess what I would call it is my first public pattern. I've made several purses here and there way back when, and never developed into anything. But this is something that I worked on. I made me actually a little cash wallet for my shows. And um, it was something simple. I thought it was something cute. And I thought, well, let me just go ahead and, bring it out to everybody, anybody that wants it. It's going to be free. It's basically, I'll give you the measurements of the pieces that I'm using and what I use. And it's going to be listed in the description, and it'll be out there for you to use if you choose. And I'm going to, honestly, it's my first pattern, my first, I guess you should say public pattern. And I think I decided I'm just going to call it Toni's wallet. Basically, while I am a person that loves a lot of pockets in my purses, this is a very simple raw edged wallet. This wallet there's not much to it. And I'm just a simple person. So that's kind of why I'm going to name it after me, because there's not a lot to it. So basically this is the wallet. Now I had one that was a little bigger. And that's what I used for my show. Then I simplified it even more. I made it a little more shorter at the top. I kept it a little long. I still kept it the lengthwise. I still like the length of it. But I decided to make it a little shorter, just enough to fit a bill, your bills. Dollar bills. I got like a little dollar bill in there to make sure it's sized up good. But there's not to it. It's raw edge. This is made out of cork. You can paint it if you want. I typically don't paint it. Sometimes if I do paint, I'll just throw a little black on the edge. But it's not necessary, because of what you make. If you make it out of good fabrics that can withstand nothing on the edge, nothing that frays or anything of that nature. The wallet features, this one is a snap closure. And then what I just added a little extra piece here for the snap to go into, so it's hidden on the front. Nothing here, honestly, nothing in this wallet is not something you probably have not seen somewhere else. At different types of wallets and different other patterns. However, I just kind of created this little simple wallet. I personally have not seen it anywhere else, this specific one. If there is one out there, I apologize to whomever has it. I personally have not seen it. So anyways, with that all being said, I know I'm kind of veering off a little bit. So it's basically this is one full piece here. This is a piece, obviously, because it's different. And then when I first thought of it, I was just going to make it just a pouch, pretty much. But then I decided I wanted it divided. And then I decided, well, if I'm going to divide it, I'm going to add a pocket. So there's just a small little zip pocket in the center that divides if you want something in the front. Or back, depending on how of course, you can put whatever you want in the front or the back, but then you've got a little zipper pocket down here. It's short little pocket because I wanted to put it down below to where the bills, you could see the bills. I didn't want it to hide what's in the back of the wallet. So it's a little shorter, but it's nice and long, so you can still get an adequate amount of bills in there. And then this edge here, this is actually folded. This is not a raw edge. This is folded down in the wallet to show you there. See how it's folded down, but that covers the back of the snap. So if I've got it pretty much taped, double-sided tape, but then you can see that it's covering the back of this snap. So all the snaps are covered, the backs of it, depending on the snap that you use. Since these are prong snaps, that's why I did this little piece here. And because I wanted my wallet to have a rounded edge, I couldn't do a fold over on the top, on golly, I can't even think of what this is called. That's terrible. On the flap. Then that's why it's raw edge on the flap. And then I just did, this matches the zipper part, even though you don't really see it. I just thought I'd put something a little fun on the inside. Even though it doesn't, like, you know, it's flowers and plaid, or yeah. Anyway, so that's the wall. And then I went ahead and sewn it at the bottom here, versus leaving that unsewn, even though it is a folded edge. I like that look. And when I do the tutorial, I'll explain more in detail on that. But then again, so this is the Toni wallet. Again, it's just very simple, very easy, and I wanted to just show you how I make it, and then put the measurements out there in my description. There will not be a written pattern for this. It is you just have to watch the little tutorial, or get the measurements, you know, watch me do it and figure it out, or to get my measurements and then make it without, you know, watching. It's up to you how you want to do it. If you do make one out of my little pattern, please let me know. I would greatly appreciate it. While it's not a written pattern, it's free, I still would like to know if you made one. That would that'll encourage me to write more patterns, because I've always wanted to write a bag pattern, design a bag. I'm talking, I go back years and trying to design a bag. There's a lot of things I've been doing, cleaning and stuff, and there's a lot of bags that I started. I'm talking 6-7 years ago that I started, never finished developing the bag itself, because at that time I had not perfected, or, you know, got more into bag designing. I was still doing a lot of quilts. Bag making was kind of off to the side for my quilts, was the main thing. And so I kind of put them aside, because there's a few things I couldn't figure out, I didn't know how to do, and into making the bag that I was thinking of. And oddly enough, multiple of these types of bags that I came up with, I've seen out in bags today. And I think, you know, you think to yourself, why didn't I sit down and write it then? I just didn't know enough at the time to make it, you know, bring it to fruition. But this one, very simple. And I do, again, I'm coming up with more things. And one of these days, I will hopefully have a full bag, a full pattern for everybody. So that's why I would like to know if you make one of these little wallets. Let me know. My Facebook page, Quilted Cactus, if you make one, I would love to see it. That would, you know, again, that's just encouragement. And also just let me know and give me a like if you like this little wallet. All right, let's get right into it. Sorry. I'm going to turn the camera down. I'm going to show you my pieces, talk about my pieces, and then we're going to go right into making this wallet. All right, let me get my little note out of the way here and get the camera turned down. I'll lower it just a little bit. Give me that just a second here. I think that's good. I'll lower it just a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so now, to make the rounded edges, I won't have anything in there to round the edge, because you can use just about anything to round an edge. But for mine specifically, I have this corner template. It's multi-size curved corner cutter. I bought this off of Amazon. It is not of any particular, there is not a name on there. I do not know if it comes with any name or anything, but this is the one that I use to curve the corners on to make the rounded edges. Again, I bought it off Amazon, and it's called the multi-size curved corner cutter. I use the 1.5 inch radius corner is the one I use, this one here. So I will show you how I did it, but this is what I use to make my rounded edges. But you can use anything you want. anyone, I mean, you've got a bowl, a plate, anything like that, that of course has a rounded edge, you can always trace it and make it. Okay, so for this pattern, the pieces that you're going to need, number one, you're going to need a closure. Now I'm going to use a magnet on this one. Now if you're going to use a magnet, you preferably would use a low profile magnet, but I have this old magnet I've had for years when I first started doing bags. And this, I don't even know where I got this magnet from, but it's a thick one and I will never use it on any of my bags. So I am going to go ahead and just use it on this one for the tutorial. And I say that because you're going to see that it's a very thick one, but this one here is a nice thin and small one. I would actually go a little bit bigger on the magnet, maybe the 1/2 inch one versus the 14 millimeter. While this is a nice little magnet, I think the bigger one would be a little bit better for a wallet. But again, I'm using this really thick one only mainly to get rid of it because I've had it for a while, and this is, I just used it for the tutorial. Okay, you're also going to need a zipper. I am just using a YKK zipper. Got the zippers from Wallwack, wallwack.com. You can get a bag of assorted zippers. Very good price. This is a 7-inch zipper. Actually, no, this one's a 9-inch. I apologize. Nope, I lied again. This is a 10-inch zipper. Sorry about that. I thought I grabbed it from the other bag of zipper. So this is a 10-inch zipper. Our pieces are, this is a little bit longer than what you're going to need. I typically like to use, even if it's a Wallwack or zipper by the yard, I typically like it a little bit longer and then I trim it. So you can go smaller, an 8-inch zipper if you like. But again, a zipper, this is just a Wallwack and it's a number 3 zipper. So this pattern is written, this pattern is based on a Wallwack 3-inch zipper. Okay, for your main piece of your bag, of your wallet, you're going to need a, let me get my piece, I'm sorry. You're going to need a piece that measures 8 by 9.5 inches. And if you're going to use directional print, you want your 8-inch to be where it's going to be the fold over part of the bag like this. I wanted my straps to go vertically, so this is my 8 inches here, and then this is my 9.5 inches here. Okay, let me go ahead. Yeah, so all right, and then you're going, if you are going to use not be a square at the top, you're going to round it and make it raw edge at the top. You're going to need a small 1.5 by 8-inch piece. This is the piece that goes right here under the flap. You can use a contrasting piece, you can use a matching piece. Of course, that's up to you what you want to use for that part. Now, if you're going to use a snap that is looks good on both sides, you don't necessarily need this, but I would probably still put something there. Maybe a little thinner. This is a little thicker, but maybe a thinner piece of, you know, like if your zipper pocket is a thin piece, maybe use that as a contrasting just to, for thickness. So when your snap comes off, you don't have one thin piece for your snap. It's always good to have some support for your snap versus just having one thin piece. Okay, and then for your little zipper pocket, the zipper pocket is 8 inches by 5 inches. So this is going to be the bottom part of your zipper pocket. Your zipper pocket's going to go like this. So you want your 5 inches. That's the part that's going to be the sides of your pocket. So if you're using directional, you want to make sure the 5 inches is the sides, and then the 8 inches is what's going to, when you fold it over, you're going to have, this is where your zipper is going to be. I'll show you how we do the zipper in a minute, but this is where your zipper is going to be. And you do, and if you are using directional, where like this one, it's just the lines and it doesn't matter, you will want your the part that is in the right direction to be in the front of the zipper versus, and then have that where it goes upside down in the back of the zipper pocket, so it's not as noticeable. It is a small, tight wallet, so it may not be as noticeable, but you always want to have, of course, the best part of your materials forward or showing. Okay. That is actually all the pieces you need. Again, very, very simple wallet. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to prep your zipper pocket. So basically what you're going to want to do is on the wrong side of the zipper pocket, you're going to draw a line 3/4 inches in, as you're going to make a line on each side 3/4 in. And then from the center that you want, from the center of your piece, you're going to want to go 3/8 inch out from the center. So basically what I do is when I lay my ruler down on the piece, I just try to go, because 3/8 obviously when you do your ruler, mine doesn't have 1/16 of an inch, so I just try to keep it in between. When I place it from the center out, I go ahead and draw my center line, and then I measure out one side, and then I take my ruler and I place it on my 3/8 inch line, and then I draw the other line. I'll show you. Let me grab a ruler real quick and show you how I do this, just so you know. And I apologize, my ruler, I actually put my ruler away, believe it or not. So here's where there's the center. Basically what I do, and I hope this shows up well on the camera, is I lay my ruler. Let's see if we can do it this way. There we go. I lay my ruler down. There's my center line. And then there's, say, the 3/8. I have to go right in between. Let's see if I can do this and show you. I have to lay on my center line. I have to go right here in between, right in between these two lines, the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch and the 1/8 inch. I got to lay right there, my center line of this line here. I lay it down right there, just so, and then you could just try to do it the best you can to center in between the two lines. Because it's going to fold over and these edges will be hidden. You won't see if it's off just the smallest of amount. So you should be able to do it well. And then what I do, once I make the first line, then I will take my ruler and I will place my ruler down at the 3/8 inch line that I drew from the center. I'll lay my ruler down on the 3/8 inch line and then draw my other line. So this is an accurate 3/8 inch space. And then what you're going to do once you draw your lines is you're going to cut out that opening between the 3/4 inch. So this whole opening is going to get cut out. And I wanted to do that on camera so you can see exactly what I cut out. So let me get my rotary cutter. Now you can use a ruler. This one is a small, just the tiniest little one, and sometimes the ruler is a little taller than the line, or a little taller than my space here that I have between the center, but I should be able to cut this, and then I just lay it down, cut out this space. Even though I drew the line, I still use my ruler. I try to sometimes freehand it, and I tend to sometimes veer off. So I'll still go ahead and use my ruler even though I drew the line. It just helps it to be a little more accurate. Okay. And this is not a terribly, this is a, and then I will freehand the edges. Just be careful. When you do this, when you get close to the edges, you can actually just kind of cut in the center a little bit to where the sides aren't fully cut. See how it's just cut there, and then it's cut a little bit, and it's cut there, but these corners aren't. I would snip those out. That way you're not going over, and then you got those over cuts on there. And you can just take your scissors, just a small little tiny pair of scissors, cut out that, and that gives you a better one. Then you don't have that overcut. If you take sometimes if you take your rotary and you go a little past, you'll have like a little extra cut there, and sometimes that doesn't look good. let me see here. My rotary was just too small. I got a little bit that didn't cut. It didn't go all the way through, so give me a quick second. Clear this out. I mean, you can always freehand cut it if you're good doing that. There we go. And this kind of cork is a little bit thicker anyways, so there we go. So that's what you're cutting out. You're going to have that hole there, and then you're going to have the 3/4 inch still intact on each side. Okay, and then just get your double-sided tape. I use an 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape, especially. I do it with all my zippers, but especially with this smaller width of a zipper, you definitely want to use an 1/8 of an inch. I go ahead and throw some double-sided tape on the opening. I would definitely use double-sided tape on this part, simply so your zipper holds still. Okay, and then go ahead and then put your, what I'll do is I'll put my zipper down on the surface, right side up. Okay, make sure what I do is I make sure my zipper pull is all the way to the end and it's straight as it could be. Sometimes you kind of got to work with your zipper because when they come in those packs, they're all just like, not crammed in there, but they're at an angle when they come to you in that pack. And then I peel my double-sided tape, the backing of my double-sided tape, and then I just lay it right down. I center the best I can. If you're using these YKK zippers, it's got that little stop at the end. I keep that out of my piece. I do not include it when I make something like this. So just center it up the best, you can eyeball it, make sure it's centered well. My zipper is moving here. Give me a second. So I'm just kind of going through here. I like to keep my zipper closed when I do this because it helps to make sure that you're as even. If you pull your zipper through, you get that hump, and I prefer to keep my zipper pulled like that. So once I get it and I see that everything looks nice, make sure, I give it a good press on there to get that to stick. I'll flip it back over, and I just pull it back just a little bit. This is easier to straighten up doing it this way for me than having that zipper in the middle and then try to make it all straight. Because I've got my center line there, I know where my zipper needs to go down. So I'll just push these pieces back down, line the teeth up to that center line since I've already got it marked. I line it up, give it a press, and then I'll get my zipper scissors and snip. I still got to leave a little bit, but I'll snip roughly about 1/4 to 3/8 inch in. Not too far, because you're going to sew this together at an 1/8 of an inch anyways. So give that a little snip there, and I'm going to snip the other side. Again, it's about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch, because you want to keep some of that zipper past that opening, because you got to have something to grab a hold of when you sew it. And then you go ahead and sew the zipper to the piece. Make sure though that zipper's inside when you do that, because I was doing a one and I forgot to pull the zipper through and had to redo another pocket. So don't forget to do that. You can of course sew this at any, let me move my camera a little bit. You can't see where I'm sewing, so let me get my camera moved over. I apologize for that. I thought I had it all. There we go. So let's go ahead and sew this on. Forgot to move my light back over when I oiled my machine. All right, there we go. Now you can pull your threads through because this is inside the wallet. You're not going to see where you put your knot. I'm not. I'm just going to go ahead and back stitch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. I honestly, sometimes go a little closer than an 1/8 of an inch. So I usually do between a 1/16 and an 1/8 just to be secure on my stitching or my zipper, to make sure my zipper is, I catch everything. Okay. So get this sewn on. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an inch. And then just sew this on at an 1/8 of an I am using black thread actually on this brown because my line in my exterior is black. So I thought that this would be neat to use. And I had it in my machine and I was getting ready to change it to a tan, and I thought to match the cork, but I thought that would be pretty neat to use that black. It's just like the contrast sometimes. All right, so this is your zipper pocket. Okay, so this is actually done for the moment. You can go ahead and set this piece aside. You don't, I mean, if you want, you can go ahead and fold it to test to make sure your zipper is lined up. We'll go ahead and do that. I'll do a clip just to look at it and make sure everything looks good. And I folded it. I've got the bottoms, the raw edges at the bottom meeting. And then my zipper looks good. It's nice and centered at the top. That's what you want to do. You want to make sure it's that way. Again, if you're off just a tad bit and it's a little bit longer on one side, it's okay. The important part is making sure this is properly at the top. You get that nice curve at the top there like that. But this looks good. I don't need to worry about doing any snips. Now, you don't need to seal this out. You don't need to zip this. I should say you don't need to sew this shut at the raw edge. Because of the way I have this sewn at the bottom like this, where I have it, see where I have the stitching, that seals up the zipper pocket. Again, I did also like the look of having the stitches. However, if you do not want to stitch at the bottom like this for that look, for the, the stitching look, then you do need to stitch this closed. Okay, so remember, if you're not going to stitch like this at the bottom of the wallet for the finished look, then you definitely will need to stitch this shut. Otherwise, you can clip it and set it aside. Okay, so we're not going to need it until we put everything together. All right, so now you're going to go and grab your little flap piece here, and this is the part that goes right here. This is that we're going to install the male part of the snap. You get that part here. This is a strong snap. Okay, I'll set that aside. I'm gonna move this over here. All right, so then what you're gonna do, let me get this out of the way, get the right piece here. Okay, so you're going to get let me get my measurements real quick. You're going to find, first of all, you're going to find your center of the piece. Let me get a pen here, and I can go, since this piece will be hidden, I can go ahead and use a pen. I would not snip this because this is going to be shown. It is not going to be hidden anywhere like you do in bag making, so do not snip it. I just did a little mark there to show my center. There's my mark for my center on that piece. And then for the snap placement, it is 3/4 inch down is where we're going to put the circle part of your washer. Okay, so you're going to go 3/4 inch down. I'll make a mark from your center line. So I'm just going to do that like that, just a nice small little mark from the center. I'm going to go ahead and bring down my center line mark so I have a little cross hatch to know where to center my washer. Okay, so I've got a little spot there like that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my washer down, and I'm putting the center right where that little plus X mark is, like that. Let me hold this, see if I can hold it up without it falling so you can see. So you can see that my let's get the lighting better. I don't know, I think you can see. Yeah, see how I got, and then it's kind of moving a little bit. It's hard to do it with holding. There we go. So I've got the cross there, and right in the center. Make sure your lines are straight, of course, because that's where your prongs are going to go. So straighten up your prong lines. Okay, and then you can take your, I use this Fiskars X-Acto knife. It's I I like it because it's a little fat. It's easier for me to hold. Obviously, you can cut any which way you want, but I use this. And then just cut it. You can draw your lines and cut, or you can just cut. And I'm just cutting. So give me that. And this is where my prongs go. Make sure it went through. There we go. I can see it. Okay. I'm just making sure. Yeah, there we go. It's hard to tell. So I'm going to take my snap here, and then I'm going to put the snap through the front of the piece. Get that in there. Barely, don't overcut your piece. Just be careful when you do that. I've got to put, let me see, one of my things is not straight. There we go. I just need to shift it a little bit to make it straight, especially since this is a square, so it'll know if my little cuts are messed up. There we go. And I like glue. I'm not gonna lie, this is vinyl. It's not gonna really tear, but I still like the glue. I always glue around my prongs. It's just my thing. So I'm gonna stick some glue there. That is not something that is needed, really, honestly. I mean, unless you, of course, you do using cotton, then you can put if you're using cotton, you can always use Fray Check, which is like a very watered down glue, but I sometimes just use regular glue myself for that. So you're going to do your prongs. I put my prongs in for this, and then just do the prongs like that. All right, and then I'm going to throw a piece of tape over top of it to cover the prongs. Find my tape. I'll cover the prongs up, and then I also to keep the flap down, I will go ahead and throw a little bit. I've got this little 1-inch tape that I got. I got this 1-inch tape off of Amazon. I just use it for this sometimes, and you know, just a little bit of odds and ends. So I just put a little bit of tape off to the sides, and that'll help hold the piece down. I do not remove the tape backing off of this when I place it to my piece. I just remove the backing off the sides just to stabilize this piece on the when I attach it to the piece here. Okay. Now, again, I told you this is the front of the piece is a fold down because of the snap. So we're going to install the other snap, the female part of the snap, to this as well. So you're going to go ahead on one of the 8-inch piece sides. You're going to find the center, just like you did with the little piece that we just did. Again, you don't want to cut it. Now, actually this one you could cut because it's going to be hidden, but I would just do a little mark to get my center. There's my center. And then I'm going to draw a line just a little bit down, because you are going to make place your zipper. Two 1/8 inch. Now I give that measurement. That's because if you don't want to if you don't overstuff the wallet, 2 1/8 inch is perfectly sufficient. But if you want, that should give you plenty of room. But if you want a tighter wallet, you can go down a little more, make it real tight. But I would not do that, because if you want to put a couple things in, you would want to put it, but you do not want to go any further up than 2 1/8 inch, or you will not be able to top stitch this piece, because top stitching at that is still very, very close. Now, something to note, when I made this, and since this is a smaller snap and I'm using a much larger snap, I may want to go 2 1/4 inch down. I need to get that extra room for my presser foot. I'm not using a zipper foot, so I may want to go down to 2 1/8 inch, which I think I will, because I'm using a larger snap. So based on your closure, your snap closure, you want to, but again, if you're using something small, you can start with 2 1/8 inch, and then you can go further down if you're using a larger snap. So let me go ahead and measure down on my piece here. Let me get my roll in the right position. So I'm going to go 2 1/4. Let me make that little mark. So and again, this is the placement where you're going to put your circle at. It's not where it's not where the top of the snap goes. It's where the circle where you're going to mark the circle of your washer is where I'm basing my measurements, is placed to mark your piece. So you can also, just put it over rather than trying to cut through the slots there. You can place it down, make a mark on each side like that. And these are this is the slots here. That's my placement of my center. And then I did 2 little marks there. And that's the marks where I'm going to cut. So I was just did it both different ways just to show you that you can either cut. And it's actually, sometimes it's a little easier to cut your vinyl when you're not trying to cut through the slots, honestly. All right. I'm going to go ahead and place this snap. So you want to put the snap on this side. Find my placements. There we go. All right. Don't forget your washer. I have done that before. And then let's get it pushed down. And then cover up. Again, I'll have this all in my description. This will be, and then I'm just going to put a couple little pieces off to the side. If you do it this way and you put your extra pieces, make sure you just keep it lined up to the side. So when you fold your flap down, this double-sided tape is not outside of the fold over part. Okay, so there's your snap. Like I said, I just put a couple pieces, so when I fold this down, it just stabilizes it, and then there's my snap there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get her assembled. Again, like I told you, this is a very simple wallet. Okay, so then what your next step is going to be is, let me get my note here real quick, because you need to make sure for the fold up part to put around the zipper pocket, you want to place the zipper, you want to make a mark that's 3 1/4 inch from the folded edge. So what you want to do then is you want to go ahead and take this piece and fold it over, and then your fold over line, it's going to be 1 3/8 inch. So let me go ahead and you just make a couple little tiny marks, just so I know that's where my fold over is going to be. And I just put them on the side because when I fold it over, that's how I'm going to watch, how I'm going to check and make sure. So 1 3/8 inch from the side. Just make a little hash mark, and I'll show you what I do here in just a second. So I just made tiny little hash marks, and that's going to be the fold over line. Now I didn't put it on the front. I know but you're going to see, but you can fold it over there, and then you can just check yourself. Remove the backing just from the side pieces. Leave it there. Do not take the backing off the part that's covering the snap. So take your backing off if you can. Mine's being difficult. But then again, I've broke all my fingernails, so it's making it a little hard. All right, there we go. So you got that backing taken off, and then just fold it over where that little mark is. So I'm just going to go like that. Make sure it lines up to your side, because remember, this is raw edge, so line that up. And then fold this side over. Fold that down, and then just kind of make sure that it stays as straight as you can. I'm going to fold it this way to keep it, since the snap is to keep it flat. So that's, you got that nice little fold over there, and then there's your snap. So you've got nice room to do your top stitch. So we got that set there. Now from the folded edge, you're going to go up 3 1/8 inch from the folded edge and make just little hash marks, just like we did. Okay, I'm just getting my numbers, just making sure I keep everything correctly. Okay, yes, 3 1/8 inch. So there's 1, 2, 3 1/8 from the folded edge. Little tiny, again, just doing little tiny marks. This will be hidden down inside. So I'm going ahead and using my pen. Okay. Just a little tiny, again, just like I said, just these little tiny marks there. So this is 3 1/8 down from this folded edge here. Okay, so you're going to go to right there. That's where you're going to take your, gotta remember where I said it, your zipper pocket. Take your zipper pocket, and then you're going to lay it down right there on the line. So line up the bottom, the raw edge of your zipper pocket on those lines like that. Make sure you're even. Make sure your zipper pocket is even with the sides as well. Then what I typically do is I will go ahead and clip just to hold it in place. I mean, you can put some double-sided tape there if you want. It's not real necessary if you just clip it and hold it like that. I just got these little clips there, and then you're going to take this piece here, take it up around that, snug it up without moving this. That's why I can say, that's why I got it clipped. Snug it up like that. I'm going to move my zipper out of the way like that, and then just kind of hold it, and then give it a nice, get your clips and clip it up and hold it. Making sure, again, making sure everything here stays even. And then this other side, do the same thing. That's why the clips are real nice, having those clips to hold your piece in the, like that, and then it holds it in place and it keeps it from moving. You've got your piece like that. And there's one step I forgot to have you do. My apologies. Oh man, I'm embarrassed. I forgot to have you do one piece. As Susan would say, how embarrassing. Okay. Forgot to have you do one thing. The top stitching. Around, you want to do your top stitching first before you attach that zipper pocket. So you want to go ahead and do your top stitching there. I'm very sorry about that. That is a little embarrassing. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do a little, you just do one little stitch to back stitch. That way it's not noticeable, but you got that back stitch, because you're going to sew over that line anyways when you sew off of there. Let me get my glue out of the way. Okay. So that's, you got your top stitched here. That holds it, that gives it that nice finished look there at the top. Now let's get that pocket back on. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead. I'm going to put it down, line it up, throw a clip there just to hold it in place. Whoops, I moved it, of course, before I can get the other one on. Making sure everything is even and straight. Okay, so I've got it held in place. We'll bring it back up around. Just snug it up. That's all you got to do. And when you do that top stitching, that'll seal that bottom of that pocket up. Okay, so it'll be a nice finish. Just kind of, and then it's got a puff. Just kind of give it, make sure it's nice and flat, that you don't have any puckers, and it looks good. Flip it over. That looks good. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take your flat piece, because you're going to sew this completely all the way around the piece. But you want to install this as well. So when you sew completely around it, it's all one continuous flow stitching. When I first did this, I stitched the top first, then I went back and I stitched from the top down around, and I got thinking that's really not necessary to do that. You can do it all the way around. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put this on like here, and we still got to make our rounded edges. So that's why the double-sided tape is good for this, because then when you can cut the rounded edges, I want all at once versus in two separate, and then have maybe a little bit, you don't want that unevenness. So let me get this. I'm just having a bear of a time trying to get the backing off this double-sided tape. Okay. There we go. So I'm just going to line this up to the sides and the top. I'll show you here once I get done lining it up. Okay, make sure everything's straight. Seal it up. Everything looks good. I don't see any lines there. Okay, so then I'm going to take my little roller here. It makes it a tight fit. You can pre-cut if you want. That's, of course, that's completely up to you. But this does help keep it even. So I'm going to just place this down here. You just kind of hold it down on your corner. Line it up. I need my heavier cutters. Really, probably is the best cutter I'm going to need. You just kind of got to hold it still. It just wants to move a little bit because it's very, there we go. Yeah, I need my other cutter. There it is. I need my bigger cutter, my 45 millimeter. It'll go right through both of these pieces. I wasn't thinking when I lined this up, because this little one, there we go. And just cut around it. Again, you can use anything you want. And then I cut both pieces at the same time, and they're even. Okay. You can also cut it. You can also attach this piece first and leave it and have it flat if you want. That is a little bit easier. I'm not going to lie. But you can still do it this way if you're comfortable working with it this way. I just had to fix that a little bit. That was off just a smidgen. Lay back down, straighten it up. There we go. Give it a cut. That gives you that rounded edge look. You can you can do your edges any way you want, honestly. All right. Spot there. There we go. Got that cut, so that my edge is rounded. There you go. So you've got that rounded look. Then all you're going to do now is just sew completely around it. And that's done, honestly. I mean, that's it. That's how simple this wallet is. So I'm going to actually start right here where my folded edge is at. I'm starting right here because I'm going to do a back stitch anyways, versus doing any kinds of threads. So, and that back stitch will help reinforce it. And I will do, when I get to this side and sew it up, I will still do a back stitch. Again, that's just to reinforce it, because that, of course, that's where you're going to pull when you do get into your wallet. So, and then just go ahead and sew down the line. Now, if you choose not to do the bottom part, you can I would start at the side and then go up, around, and back down if you don't sew at the bottom. But I like that little look of the stitching at the bottom. have it to my other side. I'm gonna go up. I'm just gonna do a quick little back stitch. Now I'm to my flap. So you just kind of want to go slow around that curve. Snip my threads here and get them out of the way. Make sure my start and stop points meet. You don't want your start and stop points missed, because then that would look messy. Alright, let's slip these threads, clean them up. And that, you guys, is the Toni Simple Wallet. So there you go. Let me bring it up, my camera back up. Oops, whoops. There we go, there we go. Sorry about that. Gotta readjust and move things around. And there we go. Alright. So there's the Toni Simple Wallet. There's my snap closure, like that. It looks nice. And then you open it up. Boom. See, that's got that. And then you got your opening. You got that nice, it does look nice. And then also you want to make sure since this is a raw edge, no lining wallet, you want to make sure whatever on the opposite side of the piece that you choose is nice looking. But then you've got your zipper pocket right there, and get in there in that nice little pocket. It's nice and long, but you've got a back pocket and a front pocket. Well, just close that up, and there's your front pocket. I mean, to say even if you did something backwards on that piece, you're not really going to notice it unless you actually yank the wallet open, because it's nice and narrow. But there you go. So let me know if you like this pattern. Let me know if you make a wallet from it. I would be interested to know if anybody made it. Let me know if I explained it well enough. If I need to redo the tutorial, let me know. I mean, I know I kind of almost missed the step. I realize that, and I do apologize for that as I was making that. Again, I just wrote this and I thought I'd bring it to everybody. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you found me and you're not a subscriber, I would greatly appreciate it if you become a subscriber. If you like my video, again, I mentioned that already, give me a like and turn on your notification bells. Again, I'm trying to create, if I come up with a pattern, a written pattern to sell, I will, of course will do a tutorial on it if I do that. And I'm still continuing on with my ragdoll series, and there's a bunch of other things. So turn your notification bells. You never know what I'm going to post about. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.